Roll for Crit is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Come roll with us at patreon.com/rollforcrit. There's been a slew of exciting new board game announcements over the past week, and if you haven't heard about them, then now is your chance to hear about them right here on the Roll for Crit News Roundup. Publisher Stonemaier Games has announced their first release of 2021, a new game titled Red Rising, based on the sci-fi book series by Pierce Brown. This story involves a futuristic dystopian society in which everyone is divided up into 14 castes labeled by different colors, and the lowest caste, the Reds, are attempting an uprising of sorts against the Golds. In this game, you will be taking on the role of a specific house in this universe and be competing for power against other players. You'll have a hand of cards which represent a variety of characters from all across the series of different levels, different colors with different abilities, and you'll be playing those cards and then getting new cards into your hand, attempting to fulfill certain requirements that the cards have, which cards they want to be with at certain times or in different places, as well as activating abilities on the board and receiving certain resources that you'll be able to use, hopefully to gain more points than everyone else. The game is described as a hand management and combo building game similar to Fantasy Realms or Libertalia that they specifically cite on the page as a point of comparison. The collector's edition will be available for pre-order in March and then be released just a few weeks later, with a standard edition to be coming out later in the year, more details to follow. You can take a look at Stonemeier's website to see exactly what some of the components are going to look like, get a better idea of what kind of game it's going to be. However, there are not specific rules or full detailed rules available just yet online. You're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that. We, in fact, have a copy of Red Rising, and our review will be coming out later this month. We were fortunate enough to get a copy from Stonemaier, so that's pretty exciting. This comes from designer Jamie Stegmaier himself, along with co-designer Alexander Schmidt, and based on a series of books that I know Jamie Stegmaier really likes, that I, in fact, read a little bit of in anticipation of this game, and I've had the chance to look over it, and there's some very cool stuff going on in there that I just can't really talk about just yet.
I'm sure that there's a lot more that you're excited about to talk about when comparing it to the book. I'm a little disappointed that he'll never get the chance to do the Dinotopia one. We actually talked about this a while back with him on that, but this still seems like a series he loves, and I know you actually really enjoyed reading it, so I'm very excited to see your thoughts on this game.
Yes, one of the things also of note is that they went out of their way to make sure there wouldn't be any spoilers of any kind in there. They talk about this a little bit on the announcement page. So if you haven't read the books, it's not like any knowledge will be required, and also it won't ruin anything for you if you plan on perhaps reading them later. And, they haven't also detailed exactly what the differences are going to be between the standard and the collector's edition just yet. You'll have to wait and find out what that retail one is going to be. Gameplay will be the same. I think it's purely component-wise that there are going to be changes. But Stonemaier always does a good job, and it's exciting to, have a new release from them. It's pretty early in the year already.
Magpie Games has announced they've gotten the rights to the Avatar world as RPGs. This includes both The Last Airbender and Legends of Korra. We expect to see the core rulebook release next year, February 2022, as well as some supplements later on in the year, including next year, which include Republic City and the Spirit World. And in a similar vein, the Dragon Prince, sort of a sister series of Avatar from Netflix, is also getting an RPG series. This one, titled Tales from Zadia, is going to be using the Cortex system from Fandom Tabletop. Both of these series have huge worlds that would be great to explore. In fact, I'm almost certain, if I'm remembering correctly, that Avatar was on our list of properties we want to see brought to the tabletop. It's one of our favorites. I'm not as knowledgeable in the Dragon Prince, but I should probably eventually get to watching that. But Avatar is like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I like the Dragon Prince. I haven't watched the newest season yet, and I think that show does get better and better as it goes. But there's a lot to like there. But as you said, Last Airbender is one of my favorites of all time, and having it be adapted as a role-playing game kind of is the dream for me. We've seen stuff like the Pro Bending Legend of Korra game, which is like kind of an offshoot, but not really the core of what I think we would want from a game like that. But to have it as an RPG and be able to choose, I'm going to be an airbender or a waterbender or whatever, and go on adventures, that's like perfect for that system. And the Dragon Prince sounds interesting too. Supposedly, they say on their website they're also going to have some digital tools available to help make gameplay easier, and it's going to be very much like geared towards playing almost like an episode of a series, making it feel like you're playing part of the TV show, which I like and I think is interesting. I'll be very interested to see how these two compare to each other in terms of their mechanics.
Yeah, I actually want to pull up just one line from the article here because it made me laugh, because I'm just curious on your thoughts on it. It actively discourages prolonged planning in order to give player characters more agency over the story direction. I mean, I wonder what your thoughts on. Oh, I thought you liked long planned out story arcs.
Less work for the GM. That's what that sounds like
Fair
to me.
enough.
That's what I'm into.
But focusing back now on the Avatar one of the things I'm really excited about that, especially with Korra being involved too, tell me if you disagree with this, that if you have a more combat heavy group, then you can easily just focus, I feel, more on the Last Airbender world, which is during a war, and there's, a lot more exploring and venturing. When if you have much more of the political landscape, there's still fights going on in Korra, but I feel there was a lot more of that politics you might want to expect in a D&D campaign that would make sense in Republic City.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different eras and avatars you can explore within that world. There's steampunk stuff to the more traditional types of technology. There's just a whole lot to work with there. There's plenty of room for expansions and supplements for years to come, I think. Z-Man Games has announced a new title. It's Cryo, a competitive sci-fi themed. Players are all aboard a ship that has crashed, and you're all from different factions, and now it's up to you to try to recover resources and technology and save some of your crew members from the cryo sleep that they're currently in order to make things right again. So you have these little drones that you will be sending out to collect resources, as well as cards that you'll be getting, and the cards have multiple options on them, so you can play them in different ways, either as an upgrade for your overall technology, a mission you can attempt to complete, or as a vehicle you can use to make it easier to access different parts of the planet, including the surface and underground levels, which are safer, and ultimately you're going to want to try to get your crew down there. This game comes from the same design team that put together the Manhattan Project Energy Empire, as well as separately many other games, including very recently Whistle Mountain. So another intriguing one from Z-Man, always kind of worth looking at one of these games that comes out from them in the course of any given year. And it's a cool theme. The art is meant to be, they said, inspired by French comic art from the 70s. They named a couple of artists that I was not personally familiar with, but it does have kind of a cool retro sort of science fiction vibe to it. And I like the little drone pieces you have, which actually look like little drones, like modern drones with their little propellers flying out. That's kind of fun. You like the sounds of this one, Will?
I was a huge fan of Whistle Mountain, so the fact that they worked on that as well, I was already like, I'm interested. The art style, it sounds really interesting. It's not something I'm used to, which to me is a good thing, because then I'm like, what's going to be going on here? And I'm always have a good time with classic retro art, especially with sci-fi. Though I imagine with all these cryopods, just put them on 2 minutes, 50% power. That should bring everyone back without being too bad, right?
That's your technique. Yeah, you
maybe 3 minutes if it's someone who's a little bit bigger, but 2 should be fine.
Yeah, tough to say. Yeah, it is a little bit of the theme doesn't honestly excite me that much, just because it does feel kind of generic. How many times we've seen a game about science fiction where you go out and collect resources to build your crew up and things like that. But I trust that the game itself will be of sound design, even though I think at a first glance it doesn't get me too hyped up. But in the playing of it, I hope and expect that it will impress me.
Come On Games has announced a new addition to the Grizzled series, but this is not an expansion of the game. It's a retelling with We Care, a Grizzled game. Unlike the previous game that took place during the trenches of World War I, this one takes place in modern day hospitals. You're all going to have to work together in order to make sure none of you burn out and also make sure too many patients don't die. In addition, a portion of each purchase will be used to donate to Doctors Without Borders. So not only will you be playing and understanding the world of medicine during tough times, but you will actually be helping that world out. And I'm curious on your thoughts, Jonathan, because usually when we see Kickstarters that come out that are usually whatever's very topical right now, we're like, okay, feels like a rush product. I'm not getting that vibe with this. This seems like just a perfect fit for the theming and style that was the Grizzled games.
Yeah,
So,
no,
I mean,
it doesn't. I mean, usually the problem with those games is that it feels like a cash grab, like they're just trying to get in on something that's topical. This doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's a natural fit for the system. Everybody loves the Grizzled as a game and a system already. And the fact that they are using it for a good cause, and I think it's like when you see, usually it happens in books or movies, you see things that go on that are stories that relate to the times that we're living in. So I think when done well, that can be something pretty cool, as it seems like they're doing in this instance.
I was going to say nothing against the Grizzle, but I feel the current medical system's probably more people are going to know about and be able to relate to it than the World War One.
Right.
So.
Right. Disney Villainous is getting another new expansion with another set of 3 brand new playable villains. It's called Despicable Plots. It'll be out later this month. And the 3 villains included are Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, the Horned King from The Black Cauldron, and Lady Tremaine from Cinderella, each one with their own sinister schemes you'll be trying to fulfill, such as Gaston, who of course is trying to convince Belle to marry him, and if you're able to do that before anybody else, you'll win the game. This one is playable by itself or in combination with any of the other Disney Villainous sets. I think Gaston is one of the real big Disney villains that people have been waiting a long time to finally be added to the game. I've heard, Black Cauldron is definitely more of an underground hit that kind of has a cult following now.
That's the shocker to me, because I feel like it seems many times Disney wants to be like, that movie didn't exist. Because it is a very dark compared to, I think, most of their collection.
I think what you're seeing is the fact that they are running out of villains. There aren't that many left. I don't think they were like, oh, let's find. I think they were like Black Cauldron or what. I mean, there's like The Rescuers and like 2 other movies maybe that people might care about in these. I don't know about in terms of like the big guns. I feel like Gaston is the last one. In terms of who can really headline a box set, I feel like they've gone through all the big names at this point.
We've got the new Dragon movie that's coming out.
Oh, you think they'll? I guess that's true. Maybe they haven't done like Moana or Frozen. Has they done Frozen yet? Even I guess they've.
No, they haven't done Frozen. But who would
I don't
be
know.
the villain in
They'd get in
the island?
Yeah, a big scary island or a wave or there's always something you can do.
The crab.
There's always some antagonist somewhere, even if they're not like a primary part of the overall plot. But these sound cool. I think that the Villainous games have gotten better with the expansions as they've gone. So it'll be nice to finally have some of these big ones and some of those more cult ones for every kind of fan to enjoy.
Now we'll leave you with some games that have just released that you can pick up at your local game store. First off, we've got Almanac The Dragon Road. This is a game when each player will have their own caravan, and you'll be going through a book and playing on each page. You'll be making decisions, and each page, of course, will have its own rules of how you place your workers or gather resources. Then, of course, Magic has its official release of Kaldheim. Pre-release was last week, but this is the main release where you can pick up all the products, including the very well-priced and great pickups of the Commander decks. Then we've got Marvel Champions Quicksilver. This involves the speedster hero and is the brother to Wanda and is all about really unexhausting himself and going over and over and over, pretty much running by the villains really fast to either punch them, thwart them, or defend. Then we've got the Monolith Arena Golems. This is expansion for Monolith Arena in which the golems are there to try to free themselves of their previous master. Then we got Sherlock 13, which is a party deduction game. You'll be looking at the suspects, each one with a list of different attributes and descriptions, and trying to guess who is the actual criminal. Then we've got Smash Up Marvel. For all you Marvel fans out there, we've got always more Marvel. And this, of course, is a smash up of Smash Up and Marvel. You can play as Avengers and Hydra, or maybe as some more unknowns as the Ultimates, and of course, maybe some Kree villains if you want to get a little bit into space. Then we're going to end up with Unmatched Little Red Riding Hood and Beowulf. It was being sold on the website earlier, but now it's going to be more general release. Will you be able to combo out as Little Red Riding Hood, or as Beowulf, are you just going to power through with your rage? A bit lighter on the Fantasy Flight LCG packs, but we still got that Quicksilver one, which sounds really cool, all about like sort of just keep doing it over and over and over. His stats are low, but because you just keep doing like unexhausting him and then repeating, it seems like you can really stack up or at least diversify what you're doing. Not sure if you picked that one up yet, Jonathan.
I will hopefully be getting the chance to play it sometime soon, or at least have it and then look at it and think about playing it. That's just how things usually go these days.
Yeah, well, yes. I, though, have picked up Smash Up Marvel because I felt like I already have my tier list. I'm going to have to rank these guys eventually. And I will then, of course, see how Jonathan feels, since you are much more the Marvel head, if you think that they've done justice to this. And I also picked up Almanac the Dragon Road. I thought that was such a fun, cool idea. It was a Kickstarter in the way back, so I'm excited to try it out and play through all the different pages.
Yeah, Sherlock 13 was a cool sounding one we talked about in our preview video for the year as well. I think the deduction aspect of it sounds intriguing. So a few interesting releases there you might want to take a look at, with more to come, of course. We're still very early in the years. There's a lot coming up ahead. Some big news stories this week. So many, in fact, that we couldn't fit them all into this episode. We will be discussing even more cool stuff later on our Patreon exclusive podcast this week. If you want to jump over to there and support us on that platform, we would be happy to have you, and you could hear us talk about more news stuff. I also wanted to mention, I forgot to say that for the Red Rising pre-orders on Stonemaier, they have a system where if you sign up for emails, they're also donating $1 for each sign up to the ACLU. So it's nice to see that, as well as with We Care, a Grizzled game, companies putting some profits forward to different deserving charities and organizations. That's always a cool thing to see in the industry. But you can let us know in the comments section what you thought about these different news stories. Which of these game announcements are you most excited for? Are you going to jump in on that Red Rising pre-order, or are you waiting for something else that's coming up pretty soon? You buying Smash Up Marvel? Talk to us in the comments. Let us know whatever thoughts you have on any of these discussions.
Is there a Disney villain we're not thinking about and should be the next headliner? Let us know. Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and support us on Patreon. That would make us happy.
Maybe the next video is the one where Jonathan does a silly dance.